So, hello everyone, welcome back to Dynamic Racing Leagues, here for some more DTM action here today. We are here in Austria at the Red Bull Ring, and joining me in the commentary booth we have recent addition to the cast, Brandon Hay.
Alright guys, what's going on? Hope we can bring you some fantastic racing today here in Austria at the Red Bull Ring.
Absolutely, and as per usual, this being the early part of the practice session that we're just starting the stream at, not too many cars at the moment, hoping more will join later on in the session. At the minute we just currently have Nils and Alfana on track. Nils currently with the fastest time, a 1:29.8, making his way through sector 2.
Should get John wandering in the pits now, he'll be ready to come out soon. Perhaps it's coming out.
Yep, so already, even though we only have 4 cars currently on the circuit, including those in the pit lane, all 3 manufacturers represented here today. That would be BMW, Aston Martin and Audi. Going to be an interesting battle in the manufacturers coming up for you here today.
And yeah, just a little word on the track, a few action zones maybe. Turns 1 and 2 very sharp corners. It can be hard to hit the apex and stay in between the white lines. But also on that last turn there, it is tight, but you can take it in your second or third gear, which is a decent speed, but we'll hope to see some action there.
Yeah, also, thinking back to last season, it was a track where quite a lot of people were running wide and abusing quite a few of the track limits. We're hoping to see everyone stay relatively calm for this one compared to that before. So
I'm going to go on board here with Nilsman. I'll take you for a tour of the Red Bull Ring.
Yep, we're currently in sector 2, I believe that is, approaching the run through turn 3. Again, downhill braking zone, and it does open up as you make your way through the corner, but just very slidey on the curb as well, heading towards the infield section.
We're just going around these turns, you have to be careful to watch your gravel as he gets his right wheels into that. When these 2 corners here, he's got half a second penalty for running on the gravel there.
Choosing to serve that. Going back up to the last 2 turns of the circuit again. That slightly downhill braking zone. Doesn't quite hit his mark on that occasion. He's probably just setting himself up to go onto a lap. Again, nice and wide, but not too wide like we've seen in previous seasons from a lot of the guys. Heading to the
it looks like we've got Root on track.
Indeed, VLC IM group here as well, so both of the Virtual Racers Club cars are making an appearance, so it should be a good showing from that team. They've been relatively consistent in terms of having both cars on the grid throughout the whole season. And we also see, actually, still on the onboard of Nils, there was Groot who was pulled off on the exit of turn 2, just letting him through. He's back up to speed now.
We'll take a look at the live times from our first 4 drivers here. So we've got Nils on pole with a 1:29.7. We've got Alfan up behind him with a 1:30.420. And then John with a 1:32.4, and Group still to set time.
Yep, so once again, Nils looking quite strong at the moment, but we're still yet to see some of the big names show up or set a lap. The likes of King of Torque would be certainly one that we'd expect to see up there. Had a fantastic scrap with Nils at Dragon Trail, if I recall. Nils coming out on top on that occasion, but both of those drivers extremely competitive with one another. Just something I need to quickly do, real quick, because I've forgotten turn notifications off for this. There we go, we are back, and we are looking at the paddock building for some reason, as TSR Stig has just joined the lobby. Gonna quickly check out John Wandering again. He's making his way through the last sector on a lap. He's currently 2 seconds off the pace of Alpha Nut, so he'll certainly be looking to improve from that.
Ran very wide there.
Very easy done to abuse the track limits, and indeed the penalty system coming clutch on that occasion, dishing out a penalty for that.
Yeah, I think the penalties are going to be very dominant in this race, as unforgiving as they are.
As I believe this is qualifying that is starting, so not too full of a grid at this stage, and perhaps more will be joining further through the session, but we are green here in the qualifying session. It's going to be John Wander in the first car to exit the pit lane. And there he is.
Got Alpha coming out, the two VRC cars.
Bright orange and bright pink as per usual. Fantastic to see both of them here again.
Here comes Millsman, doing a little bit of weaving, trying to get some heat into the tyres.
Yep, wisely done.
I think he is Carbon coming out in his one-off livery, supporting Driven Secure.
Would appear to be paused currently, as his car is still ghosted and going round. But yep, currently just 5 cars on track for qualifying. TSR Stig, who is another favourite and probably the strongest of the Audi drivers, currently not on track. Just going to quickly go through the championship standings. At the moment it is Dynamic Carbon with 57 points in first. King of Talk is teammate on 52 points, so only a 5-point gap after King's recent streak of very good results. Sailor is in third with 45 points, so top 3 positions are all BMW as John Wandering takes us through the first lap. Going on board there. Fast and loud, so that is TSR Stig, the fastest of the Audis. They're on 44 points. Nilsman, the guy who was fastest in practice, they were on 30 points in 5th. It's Jim Jam on 16 points in 6th. It's Gugus, or Houdini as he's now known, on 12 points in 7th. And Spenner also in 7th with 12 points, so joint on that occasion. Spinner Copen, who I believe was left the championship unfortunately, I could be wrong on that. They're on 10 points in 9th. I Am Groot on 8 points, they're in 10th, ahead of their teammate by 1 point, Alpha Nut, who's on 7 points in 11th. Joram Bandit in 12th with 5 points, then GTIC Y Bear with a solitary point in 13th. So of course we have John Wandering making his way through the infield section, seeming to be on a little bit of a cautious lap at the moment, not using too many curbs. Perhaps just trying to get a banker lap in before he really starts pushing later on into the session.
Yeah, got just about 12 minutes remaining in this session.
Yeah, of course, 15 minutes as per usual for the qualifying. First time is set, it's a 132.4, which is eclipsed by VRC Alpha Nut instantly, and Groot as well. That's a 129.8 by Groot, so that's 1.2 seconds faster than their teammate. That's very impressive. We've got Nils, who just came across the line now. Nils has just gone fastest by nearly 3/10 with a 129.5. And Carbon splits the Virtual Racers Club cars. He's currently qualified 5/10 off the pace in 4th. Or third,
There's quite
rather.
a few cars in sector 2.
Yep,
To the downhill braking zone.
they're starting to bunch up a little bit, aren't they? As Alpha Nut is definitely seeming to catch up to John Wandering.
And here's TSR Stig on his outlap. What can he do?
Of course, the bright blue and purple Dacwa machine, that very nice metallic effect he's got going on there. Should be at the sharp end of the field. We'll have to see what happens to him. As I think John Wandering is getting very close again with Alpha Nut. This is just qualifying. Alpha Nut choosing to back off, as he probably knows John Wandering won't give way because he's on a qualifying attempt. Also gets out of his way of his teammate Group. Will there be any improvement on this occasion? Doesn't look like it from John.
See what Nils can do. He looks faster.
Yep, he's making his way through the last corner down to the straight. It's not quite going to be enough. 800th. But he still currently holds the fastest time of the session. No doubt as the cars start burning off fuel, they'll become lighter and therefore quicker.
Yeah, what can Carbon do? So he's coming down to a final corner.
Yep.
Oh, he's on an outlap.
He is indeed on an outlap. As I believe that's also TSR Stig getting out of the way of Carbon, which is interesting because Stig just went onto his lap. So he hasn't picked up damage or anything. That's just really odd from Stig. He's just withholding his pace at this stage.
Maybe he wanted a lot clear air.
That would make sense, but it would have made sense to have backed out before crossing the line.
There's another big bunch up in sector 3 again. Try and find out who that is.
It's Groot, John Wandering and Alpha Nut again. So
I'm on board with Groot here.
Yep, here we are on board. Using a lot more curve. And he spins out in the last corner. Just really caught out by the amount of curve they took, and the Audi perhaps not set up as well to take some of the curves as some of the front engine cars. He's now reversing back. He's reversing back on the track. I'm assuming this is just to get a better run. There currently aren't any cars in that area. You saw span. Yellow flags are out in the last sector. And now indeed he is getting a run.
Yeah, and here's Carbon on his heels. He is faster this lap.
So we're about to see what the series organizer can do on this occasion. Dynamic Carbon, he goes fastest. That's a 28.9. That is a fantastic lap from Dynamic Carbon. 5/10 faster, nearly 6/10 faster than fellow BMW driver Nilsman. And setting the new standard here today at the Red Bull Ring. Not seen a 128 here in the practice. Yep. Is that repairing damage? No, he is literally just sat in the pits. He's not taking on fuel or anything. No tyres. Oh, that is quite odd.
Nils is on a faster lap. But it will be difficult to beat that 128.9 from Carbon.
We're going to go on board with Nilsman as he makes his way up towards the last two turns. Needs to absolutely nail this. Carries a fair bit of speed. There you see, using a lot of exit curb, but not as unsettled as the Audi of Groot was earlier. There's a very good run through there. They go fastest. It's a 128.880. Nearly a tenth faster than Carbon. That was a fantastic lap by Nils. Managed to keep his composure in the last sectors as we saw, and it's only paid off for him.
Oh, we have got Alpha Nut back out on track.
Yep, he's currently on an outlap, making his way through turn 3.
And here's TSR Stig, he's on a personal best.
Yep, Stig comes across the line. Interesting, the top 3 currently separated by 0.2 of a second, so Stig's right up there with them on his first actual timed lap, his first proper timed lap anyway. So this could be a very good showing from him. As those, just Groot in the foreground, seeming to just slow down. I assume to let, yep, that was Carbon going through.
Seems to be paused. Car is ghost.
Yes, that That's a good spot. As I drop my controller. Fantastic. Professionalism here on the Dynamic Racing Leagues. Whatever this is.
Can Nils improve on his time and make it an even bigger challenge for Carbon to get pole here in qualifying?
It's
What's
going
it
to be
gonna
close.
be?
No, not quite. 2/10 off his own best lap, but could certainly still improve as the car gets lighter. We're nearly having 10 minutes of the session gone, so we're coming into the final third, and it's going to be make or break time as the cars are getting to their lightest point through qualifying to see what everyone does. Someone's
Like Carbon had a bit of a nightmare lap there.
still currently second as someone's just gone into the
Stig's
pit.
pulled over in the pit lane.
We have an onboard. Yeah, he's just pulled over to the side. He's not got damage or anything. That's very odd on the part of Stig. We don't normally see him do this. Unless he just wants to start third, I assume? It's my only guess, to sort of avoid like a turn one kerfuffle between these sort of
Spawned back on the start-finish straight.
Oh, I think that does actually happen after a certain amount of time if you're in the
Seems
pit
to be
lane
pulling
blocking
over
it.
once again.
Yep. And he's just about parked in the gravel. That's unfortunate to see. Not quite sure what's wrong there. Perhaps a mechanical issue that the team's just telling him to not try and get the car back or something along those lines, because it might be damaging the car further. Nilsman coming into the pit.
On a personal best.
Is he? He's coming through the last section. Nils into the pits. They'll be for fresh rubber, no doubt. As we now go on board with Dynamic Carbon coming up through the last two turns. What can he do? Very solid amount of curb again. He might have slowed a bit too much for that last corner. We're gonna see. What's it gonna be? It is indeed purple. A quarter of a tenth between him and Nilsman after that. That is a 128.856 set by Dynamic Carbon.
As someone stopped, it's Gru. He's had to turn back around to go into the pit lane.
It looked like he might have span out or something going through the second to last turn, and now he's going into the pits. So this will be for fresh rubber again, so these guys will have one last lap on the fresher rubber with as low fuel as they can.
Yeah, and the cars that are currently out will have around 2 laps left to improve on their time.
Nils is one of those cars. They're the first, if I recall, to make that strategy call. So they should be looking good. They're currently on an outlap. Where's TSR Stig? He's still pulled off. Groot making his way up the hill. His teammate Alphanut just behind him actually on circuit. But Groot again seeming to be a little bit faster than Alphanut, his teammate. At this stage, the team rivalry certainly going on, as actually Alphanut goes purple by 1/10 and a half in Sector 1, so that Audi is very slippery in a straight line. Perhaps it's actually looking like the VRC Audis might be slipstreaming each other and using that kind of tactic to improve both of their lap times. Indeed, that is the case.
Yeah, Groot, big slide there from Alphanut.
Yeah, but you could actually see that Groot did pull over to one side to allow their teammate through after all the slipstreaming was done, so they don't get affected by the dirty air. So, fantastic tactics between both of those guys.
We'll see what Nils can do on his final lap in qualifying.
So Alphanut was 3/10 up on their own best time after that. Have to see how they go from there, but we are indeed watching Nils. He's got all work to do.
We'll see what Alphanut can do as he's coming around the final corner. He's on a personal best.
Yep. It's going to be close. It's going to be an improvement, but not enough to upstage their teammate. 34,000 separate both of them. Yellow flags in Sector 1. That is still the parked up car of TSR Stig. So Alphanut has, I'd say, one last lap in order to try and improve on this. Stig's still parked up.
There must have been something happened to Nilsman. He's 2.5 seconds slower than his.
I
Well,
did see him weaving at the exit of turn 2, as someone's gone really wide out of there actually. I'm not sure who that was.
That was Alphanut.
Was it? Indeed it is. Alphanut's gone extremely wide. He's gone all the way to Narnia and then back. As Nils is going on to what will be his last ditch attempt of a lap. Oh, and he's...
big slide.
I would say he might have bottled it right then and there, and I think he might know that. It looks like he's backed off a little bit.
Yeah, he seems to be slow, maybe.
I'm gonna have to call the flag shortly, right on the notch. There we go. Flag is out, and indeed Nils has backed out. Nils has backed out. Now what's anyone else gonna do? Carbon still could actually improve on their own time. They crossed the line before. Yeah, they crossed the line before the flag was called, so they're still on the lap. Groot is in the wall. Alphanut, they're coming across the line. That is not going to be an improvement by any means. That's 18 seconds slower than their personal best. John Wandering is currently 2.3 seconds off the pace of Alphanut. Can he do anything to get himself back up there? He's very hesitant.
VRC cars could take home a good result today, with there being a low grid number. Everyone's going to score points if it stays like this.
That is a well observed point there. Only 6 cars, and of course 6 cars taking points. So indeed everyone who's racing, at least at the moment, we might have more joiners later as I said earlier, but for now all these guys should be taking points if this was the end of the race.
What's Carbon gonna do?
He doesn't quite improve. That time would have not put him ahead of Nils, but he did set the earlier time of course, but that one in particular wouldn't have, by about 3 thousandths. So both of the top BMW drivers from 2 different teams doing extremely well. In the end it was this guy, Dynamic Carbon, who came out on top with qualifying yet again. Yellow flags out as per usual, with people parked up, preferably in sector 2. I shall have a sip of this amazing Dandelion and Burdock, which is not an official sponsor of DRL, but it should be. Good stuff. Nils congratulating Dynamic Carbon on the pole position in the chat. The lobby chat, that is, so that's fantastic to see the sportsmanship between those two. It's going to be a very tight fought battle between those two as Groot just sort of ploughing into the wall. But yeah, also going to be interesting to see whether the likes of TSR Stig will be able to get into the mix as well. He's still only 2/10 off the pace of the front runners, and we only really saw 1 proper lap from him, so it's a bit of an unknown in this. We're going to have to see how he does. Currently got 5 viewers on the YouTube stream. How many would we have on the Twitch side of things, Brandon?
About 0 so far, man, unfortunately.
Great. Well, we've only recently started streaming on there, so yep. Eventually, when we get a bit more recognition, the numbers should eventually start growing. We've had the YouTube for a lot longer than we've had the Twitch. Of course, no matter which way you're listening to us, thanks for joining in today. Groot in the chat on YouTube saying he thought he had longer. No, it is a 15-minute session, as per usual, and has been the usual throughout the season. Perhaps getting confused with another championship you're in, or something along those lines. I do not know. But nevertheless, you out-qualified your teammate, Groot, so good job on that. John Wandering in the YouTube chat saying he can't get turn 1 and 2 right. Indeed, it's very easy to run too wide if you carry too much speed, but also you need to be very committed in order to carry the speed, because the following sections are very long straights, so you need to carry that momentum somehow. And Groot now saying you're just not keeping track. Fair enough. Fair enough. Easy done. Still have quite a lot of race to go, of course. Going to be approximately 1 hour, as per usual with the series. Round 9, of course, in Dynamic Racing League's DTM Season 2 here in Austria at the Red Bull Ring.
And next week is the finale.
Indeed. Finale is coming up next week, which will be at the Nürburgring GP circuit. So last season it was at the 24-hour layout, which combines the GP circuit with the Nordschleife loop. Instead, the series organizer decided to just stick with the GP circuit again, at least according to this particular calendar.
I think we should take the time talking about next week to talk about the DRL Le Mans Classic.
Yes, that is a very valid point. We have another special event that's going to be coming up to you guys shortly, or at some point very soon in the future. The DRL Le Mans Classic is going to feature all 5 Group C Le Mans prototypes in the game. So that's the Porsche 962, the Mazda 787B, Jaguar XJR9, Nissan R92CP, and the Mercedes Sauber C9. And yeah, it's going to be a special event. It's going to be held at Circuit de la Sarthe, where else? And it's going to be a fantastic time, an open event, so a lot more casual compared to this actual championship racing that we've been doing for the last 10 weeks or so.
Bit of banter in the chat there between the drivers. Which a spelling mistake wasn't made from Stig. She was getting wooden board.
Oh, we're waiting for King of Talk then. And John Wandering indeed is as bored as a board. Amusing stuff. Now, also, John Wandering in the YouTube chat saying, "Where's Nuke Shot's sorbet driver?" I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea as to where anyone is anymore, to be honest, in my team. I mean, Nils is right here. Nils is right there, over there on the track. But as opposed to like Houdini, I think he said he's just very, very busy recently with personal life things. At the moment, might be able to make a race in the future. I don't know.
Well, one thing I wanted to talk to Carbon about was, if we are doing Group C, would it be the no chicane layout?
It must be, it must be. It's going to be on the thread somewhere. Even Carbon might be in the chat actually, on the YouTube stream there. We'll see if we can get in touch with him on there. But I definitely imagine so, the no chicane layout, because that's what they used to run back then with the Group C cars. Only makes sense. Only real way you can unleash that kind of power.
Does seem to just say Circuit de la Sarthe.
Ah, right, so it's not actually quoted as the no chicane then. That's quite interesting. Maybe it'll be clarified a bit further by Carbon. We'll have to see on that.
It'll be interesting to see how people tune their cars if it's no chicane. I'd imagine a lot of low downforce.
It might be a case of having tuning prohibited. I'm not 100% sure on that. Again, I'll have to check the details in my own spare time. There's a bit of chaos going off at the moment between several cars just bumping around. There you see John wandering, doing some donuts.
Here we are. So one and only King of Talk.
Brandon in the chat, which is host of and like organizer and not the CEO of DRL, because the CEO is obviously Martin Huizen, but he's saying that we're using the chicane version and it's going to be no tuning and BOP on. So yeah, okay, fair enough. I would have assumed it would have been the no chicane layout, but fair enough, I suppose. King of Talk, of course, just joining the lobby a bit late. It was the main reason that we had this delay, but he's here now, and as per usual, missing out on qualifying. It's going to be very interesting to see how he does in the race. Because we don't really have any measure as to where he is on pace compared to everyone else.
If Groot is in any of the streams, I'd like to remind him that this is a Christian server.
Indeed it is. John Wandering typing ready in reverse in the lobby chat.
Hell yeah.
Oh, apparently King of Talk is a bit overweight. He needs to eat a few pork pies and get some ballast. Good to see that Carbon's keeping track of all the success ballast and such. Well, it's just going to be a 1% increase, as there we see Nils just taking to some of the escape roads, exploring the map here, almost like it's a different kind of video game altogether.
Seems like we're going to be getting underway very soon.
Yeah, that would certainly seem to be the case. So not long to go now until round 9 of the DRL DTM Season 2 Championship begins, or commences. It's going to be BMW front row, as we've seen on many occasions in the past. Will the likes of TSR, Stig and the Audi on the second row be able to do anything? Or anyone else for that matter. The only Aston Martin in this particular one is John Wandering. Interesting to see how he does in comparison with everyone else. Will John Wandering score points today? That is the question. Now there are 7 cars.
Whoever finishes 7th will be a very unlucky man.
It might come down to incidents. I don't want to jinx anything, but we have seen some incidents before. If anyone has seen the highlights package of last season in DTM, as Carbon does indeed start the race, there was one punt in particular that really stood out. You should definitely check it out, as we're having the grid walk. I'll take this over to my colleague Brandon.
Yeah, so we have a BMW front row with Carbon on pole and Nilsson in second. Audi second row with Stig and Groot, and then Alpha up behind. John Wandering in the Aston Martin in 6th, and King of Talk in 7th due to turning up late. We're about to get underway here at the Red Bull Ring.
Yep, things are about to get started here. The engines are revving. Green, 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 and the cars are off. It's a fantastic start by Nilsson. It's an even better start by Stig. Stig's already up into the lead. They're 4 wide, pretty much, going into turn 1. And look at Groot down the inside. There's contact. There's contact, and that's Stig straight off.
Stig's in the wall.
Stig straight off into the wall. And it's Groot who has somehow managed to take the lead. The guys are still jostling for position. It's a VRC 1-2. What's this? They're making their way up the hill. Stig's left the room. Somehow Groot's managed to get into the lead. Carbon's... Well, no, that's King of Torque. My apologies. Looking to see if he can get ahead of Alpha Nut. But no, he can't. So a fantastic start by both VRC drivers, it has to be said. A big contact between Stig and, of course, one of them is
contact between Torque and Groot.
Yep, so everyone's still jostling for position, even their teammates. But, yep, as Groot's actually running very wide. Groot clipping the gravel, and that's promoted King of Torque up into second. As Groot drops another place, Groot's dropped down to 4th. Nils up to 3rd at this particular stage then, so Nils has lost a position. King of Torque starting from the very back of the grid to get to 2nd. Fantastic
with King of Torque as he's looking down the inside on Alpha Nut.
Yeah, you can see he's just having a slot back into the slipstream right now. Gonna quickly watch the rear wing as well as Nils is coming up. It seems that King is very conservative at this stage, constantly having to switch between front and rear views just to see the kind of action that's been going down, as Groot is actually into the pits. So Groot more than likely has picked up damage. He's on his way out of the pits now, going back to the off-board camera shots as King is looking to go around the outside. He's ran way too deep and is sliding about. That's going to affect his run. That's going to allow Nils to try and get past. Nils is down the inside. They're pretty much level pegging, making their way down to turn 3.
And it looks like Nils and King of Torque have been done wheel to wheel in turn 3. Big slide from Alpha Nut, big slide from Torque.
They're still just about side by side. It looks like King's getting a slightly better run with the acceleration and will now have the inside. So indeed, Nils does have to slot back in. Carbon now back on these guys.
Nils. Torque losing a lot of grid.
Yep, making their way up towards the final 2 corners yet again. So it would seem that the top 4 is starting to break away from the others. Everyone's still scoring points. Yep. Well, current fastest lap set by Dynamic Carbon as he certainly thought about making a move. I was thinking maybe that was more to cover off Carbon than it was to try and dive down the inside of King, because Nils seemed to lose quite a lot of time from that. You can see he's out of slipstream range. And in fact, he's coming under attack from Carbon. Carbon's looking to the outside line.com and can't quite find the cutback through turn 2. We'll certainly have another run at it, as it looks like the leaders are also getting very close, are they? Alpha Nut defending the inside line well, forcing King to go to the outside. Carbon also looking to go on the outside. Nils
on their wheel to wheel.
Yep, Alpha Nut still having to defend. He's got the inside. King's going to try and carry it around the outside. It's going to be extremely impressive. And King just about manages to get up into the lead from that. Fantastic move from King of Torque. He's going to still have Alpha Nut for company at the moment, as again it looks like Carbon's going to try the inside on Nils on this occasion. Nils didn't manage to defend it, and Carbon does indeed go through. So both Dynamic Racing League, or rather Dynamic Esports cars, making their way up the order. They're now 1st and 3rd. Of course, both of those guys are the main championship protagonists. King of Torque 5 points behind Dynamic Carbon at this stage in the season.
Can Alpha Nut get enough of a tour from Torque to make a move at turn 2?
It looks like he's a bit too far back on this occasion. Although Nils is looking like he might be trying on the outside, or maybe a cutback. Although Carbon's there was a mistake from Alpha Nut, or he just seemed to not get on the throttle efficiently, and Alpha Nut has dropped down the order. And
Here's
now look,
Nils.
Nils also sizing him up. These guys extremely scrapping as there's very nearly contact between the two teammates of Carbon and King of Torque, but it is both Dynamic Esports cars currently at the top of the order, first and second. Nils still trying to find his way past the bright orange car of Alpha Nut.
It's been incredible racing so far.
Yep, and it's still continuing on as it looks like Carbon has got down the inside as he thinks better of it. Nils also thinks a little bit better of it going through there. It's really a game of cat and mouse at this point. Gonna see if we can go on board with Dynamic Carbon at this stage. Still just within that slipstream range at the moment. They've definitely broken away from the guys behind them. As Alpha Nut's gone completely to Narnia, we're gonna have to see if we can get a replay of that. Alpha Nut going completely wide. So we're gonna quickly get this replay of Alpha Nut. Just making his way up.
I couldn't catch it. Sorry guys.
And he just completely loses it on the brakes. That is extremely unfortunate for him. He's dropped down to 4th, and it's also dropped off the tail of the 3 BMWs ahead of him. So all 3 BMWs in the top 3 positions. King has broken out of the slipstream range of Carbon. Carbon must have made a mistake or something because he's falling into the clutches of Nils. Perhaps Nils was a bit preoccupied trying to fend off Alpha Nut, and now Alpha Nut's off his back. He's able to keep pace with the guys ahead of him. So of course 40 laps here at the Red Bull Ring, and we've only just had 5 of them, so fantastic racing so far. Hoping the action will continue. Sure looks like it.
John seems to be closing up on Alpha Nut by about a 10th almost every second.
I'm actually curious, did Alpha Nut pick up damage? Yes, Alpha Nut did pick up front aero damage from that skirmish where they went off track. It must have been when they just had a collision with the wall, and that is allowing John Wandering to catch up on the straights in particular. Of course, that would also be affecting cornering as well on the R8. So John
Nils still in a hot pursuit of Carbon, still within that really effective slipstream.
Oh, that was
range.
King. King went wide. King's going wide. He made a massive mistake. Quickly get the replay button going, and that is King. He's lost 1 position. He might lose 2. No, he just about fends that off. Didn't pick up damage or anything. So it was just a slip, it seemed. I'm gonna quickly go to the replay footage now. So yeah, he just ramped wide on the exit of turn 3 into the gravel, and that just really hampered his run out of there, allowing his teammate Carbon to get past.
We could still fall down the order a bit more.
Yep, Nils is definitely hard charging. Everyone is in everyone else's slipstream at the moment for these top 3. So it's gonna be level pegging in terms of their straight line, except for Carbon, of course, who's currently at the front of the field, so he won't have the benefit of slipstream from anybody. He's just about broken the slipstream range, actually, from King of Torque through that last corner. So that
Nils there.
Yep, Nils again thinking better of it, thinking he might potentially get him through turn 3, because that's where we saw the mistake from King on the last lap. They're making their way down. It's currently Dynamic Carbon, our race leader, King of Torque second. Nils thinking better of it again through turn 3. Very patient in his driving. King again very close to the gravel, misses it on that occasion. Nils has somehow managed to get down the inside of 3. We'll try the run on the outside through 4. It hasn't worked out for him on that occasion, but he's still hot on the heels of King of Torque. putting himself in the mirrors of King rather than opting to use all the slipstream at this stage. King misses the apex. And it's a little bit too wide for my liking as well, so that's a sign that King is starting to feel the pressure a bit from Nils. Although Nils had a little bit of a shaky exit for the last corner. Breathing intensifies from my co-commentator. So yeah, Nils gonna have another run again. Purple in sector 1 because of the slipstream, but he's not gonna be close enough to challenge King.
I'll have to get a drink here. Life is very dry in the commentator's booth.
I came prepared with my dandelion and burdock.
Got Diet Coke now.
Solid. Of course, Dynamic Racing Leagues is not sponsored by any of these products. Don't apologise, fam. It's completely normal.
No, my control started scrolling through all the positions.
Oh right. Well, we don't have that issue on the YouTube stream at least. No, still about 5/10 back from King. And coming up to the straighter sections of the track, so starting to gain a bit of time with that slipstream. Oh, both of them very wide. Yep. Exactly what you said. Oh, that was very nearly a complete tank slapper on Nils's point. Picked up a 0.5 second penalty for running wide on that occasion.
So does King.
Yeah, so both of them, because of the excessive track limits that they used on that occasion, which we clearly saw, getting the penalties. So that's unfortunate, but good to see that, you know, it wasn't a case of one of them getting a 0.5 second penalty, the other getting a 2 second penalty. Both of them got the same, as Nils is trying around the outside. They're both ghosted, and the ghosting sort of playing a little bit of a part. They're still just about side by side. Nils perhaps had a little bit of a better run.
I think that was a bit. It would have been a bit unfair if Todd got away with that there, with the ghosting.
I suppose. Well, it could be deemed either way. I suppose regarding the ghosting, it's all benefited both of them in that sense. But they're still side by side. They're going to be losing a lot of time to carbon through this. Nils just about squeezing King off of the circuit. Very aggressive defense from Nils on that occasion. Was King dropping 2 wheels into the gravel from that.
Talk running very wide. Kim will pick up another penalty.
I'm starting to think King. Yep, no, he's sliding again. Oh, nearly. Yep, 0.5 again for him, but I just noticed that slide again. That was exactly what Nils did the lap prior out of the last corner by running onto the curb too much. I'm starting to think maybe King is starting to lose his head a little bit with the shenanigans that have been going off. I was just pushing the car.
Let's take a look at the back of the pack. Group was closed up a lot of time to John Wanderer here. After an early pit stop, he's within 3 seconds.
Yep, Groot making his way up the order. Question is, will Groot actually want to, you know, go to the end on this particular strategy? If he's made his mandatory pit stop, then it might be a way of getting some sort of undercut. Perhaps just running in clean air would help. It certainly would be. Yeah, I'm also thinking because he's running in a bit of clean air, it might switch everything up. He wouldn't gain anything by pitting again, you would think, because that's John wandering. He's off, and there's contact on the rejoin. We're gonna have to get a replay of that. I'm surely you have your replay key ready. Hopefully. So, John wandering.
Oh, jeez. He's done it again.
Never mind. We're just watching this on the YouTube stream, and he's just overcooked it. And on the rejoin, there's a collision between him and Groot. It would seem that both of them avoid picking up damage at least, so that's a positive. That's promoted Grew up to 5th, John wandering down to 6th. John actually gaining a very large amount of time on the straight with that V12 engine. However, it's just not as efficient in the corners as the R8, but it's very strong on the straights as that Aston Martin. Dynamic Carbon, our race leader.
Seems to have picked up a penalty back there.
Who did, sorry?
Alpha. Yeah, he served it straight away.
Oh, I was going to say, he hasn't got one at the moment. So, oh, he's ghosting again. Did he pause temporarily? That was odd. Anyway, as I was saying, it's Dynamic Carbon our race leader by 2.6 seconds ahead of second place runner Nilsman, who's 1.7 seconds ahead of King of Torque. So BMW's 1, 2, and 3. How often have we seen that this season? VLC Alpha Nut, currently the best of the Audis, in 4th after a very strong showing at the start, but started to fall off the order a little bit. And then we've got their teammate Groot in 5th, and the lone Aston Martin of John wandering down in 6th. We'll be hoping to make quite a bit of progress from here on out. Brake discs glowing bright red on the car of Dynamic Carbon as he makes his braking into turn 2. Field starting to have spaced out a little bit. There's still the gaps that are somewhat close towards the front of the field, in particular between Nils and King. As unfortunately that's Brandon who's just left the party chat, so there's a bit of technical issues on that part. I do apologize for that. So we're down a man here in the commentary booth, and in fact Brandon has left the lobby as well, so it must have just been a massive disconnect on his part. King running wide again. Does he pick up a penalty? Yep, 1 second on that occasion. He's gone on to set the fastest lap of the race so far, 1:28.8, but that 1 second penalty, more than likely for infringing in the same part of the track for a 3rd time, because he's done the same thing 2 times prior, and now the penalty's gone from 0.5 to 1. You can sort of see where the penalty system is coming from, as I keep getting advertisements on my phone cutting the stream off, peasant thing. Nevertheless, he's caught up to the slipstream of Nilsman, so this battle is certainly back on. Just serving that penalty again. Ghosted a bit. Seeming to get a little bit of a better exit than Nils. But these two starting to come back together again. I'm going to go on board with King of Torque. Here he is, 16 on the helmet, 98 on the car. How many times must I point it out to you, King? The continuity is fantastic. Nils perhaps running a little bit wide on that occasion. We're going to see any penalty. Yep, 0.5 for that. For Nils, as I expected. Penalties are plenty for these guys. A massive slide from King in the back. But yet, that was certainly due to running a bit wide. I certainly saw that one coming from a mile away. If he is listening into the stream, Nils, take it easy, lad, on the running wide. But there he is on the bright yellow Breitling car. Still being chased down. In fact, the gap between him and King has gone up a little bit. It's now 1 second. King, of course, very aggressive on his tyres. We're going to do a quick tyre comparison. Yep, you can really see King using a lot more of his rubber compared to Nilsson. I'm going to quickly cut away because nothing's happening at the moment. I just need to quickly see if I can contact Brandon. If I can't do this quick, then that'll be an issue. Okay, I've invited him back to the party anyway, just to see if we can get him back later. I had to wait for a space rather, where there wasn't much happening. And they're still being closed down, and King is back in the slipstream range anyway. So we're gonna go to a rear wing cam shot on Nils's car. So make their way up the hill towards turn 2. King surely isn't going to be close enough on this occasion. Nils without slipstream, purple in sector 1. King really closing up in the braking zone. The gap's still around 5/10 though, as Alphanut has just gone into the pit lane. As again, King not quite close enough on that occasion. It is the Audi of Alphanut coming into the pits. This is their mandatory stop. Pitting 6 laps early to the optimal pit window, you'd think, for you know, a 20 lap on each stint strategy. So he's going for an undercut in that sense. It'll be interesting to see where that puts him when everything fans out. He's got a lot of clear air to himself. The only car in sector 1 at the moment. He's dropped down to 6th from that. John Wandering 26.8 seconds up the road. King with a 0.4 second penalty again, but he's looking a lot closer to Nils on this occasion. Will he be able to do anything? Surely not through here. Nils does brake a little early compared to King. Again, that's probably due to King being very aggressive on his tyres. Nils running wide out of turn 1, feeling the pressure. It's an absolute pressure cooker in that BMW up ahead at the moment. Does he have a penalty from that? He doesn't. I just have to make sure because he did run a little bit wide. King trying to go down the inside of turn 2. Again, really putting the pressure on Nils. Both of these guys will be losing a lot of time to the car. Just up the road, you can just about see him in the distance. That's Dynamic Carbon. Is that black speck? Nils. Oh, a bit of a slide from King on that occasion. King needs to get past at this stage as early as he can to close down the Carbon, because at the moment Nils isn't in the championship fight, it has to be said. It is certainly between Dynamic Carbon and King of Torque, the two teammates of Dynamic Esports. And it looks like he might be close enough on this occasion, is he? Nope, Nils defends. Oh, hello Joe Witt in the chat, as we go too wide down the start finish straight, do we? Just about. Thanks again to for you to join in here on the action. King does just about outbrake Nils on that occasion, and indeed does get past, but will there be retaliation from Nils, which will be the last thing King needs in his attempt to close the gap to Carbon? 3 seconds is the gap. Carbon very slow on the straights. That's odd. It's almost like they might have front aero damage or something. Nils can't do anything on the run on that occasion. Does Nils Carbon's car have damage? No. So that's certainly interesting. King currently has the fastest lap of the race and has already got the gap down to 2.7 seconds, so again showing he does have the pace to win this one. They were in first for quite a while in the earlier stages, despite starting at the back of the grid. Had a short while in first before a kerfuffle happened, as per usual. Fantastic opening laps, it has to be said. No doubt the incident between, I think it was Groot and TSR Stig, which caused TSR Stig to retire from the race, unfortunately. No doubt that will be under investigation. But we did see both VRC cars 1 and 2, of course. That is no more. We don't even have one of them on podium. All 3 BMWs up there at the moment. The gap 2.3 seconds and closing down. How much fuel have they used? I shall show you. They've used just over a third of a tank. I assume this applies to all 3. Carbon's used a little more. Of course, he is further around the track a little bit. Nils still hanging on to the slipstream, so Nils perhaps just using King with the slipstream to just sort of carry him a bit closer to Nils so we can have a 3-way scrap again at the front. Although he has just about dropped out of that slipstream range again. 7.5 tenths, needs to be within 7 in order to be back in that slipstream. It's gone up. King is certainly breaking away from Nils. Call from Joe Witt that they should be pitting round about now. We, of course, did see a couple undercuts play out. One of them, I believe in Groot's case, it was a case of pitting early because of the damage after the turn 1 collision with Stig. Making their way up the hill again, and the gap still continuing to close. It's just about a second that King managed to take out of Carbon on that lap. King again just taking chunks of time. Although he seemed to lose a little bit through turn 2. Gaps starting to get quite evenly spaced out between the top 3. John wandering into the pits. So, listening to your call, Joe Witt, in the chat of when to pit. It's going to be fresh rubber for the American. We'll drop him down to last, or will it actually? It's going to be close between him and Alphanut. There you see Alphanut. So Alphanut might have a little bit of a better run going up the hill. I don't think it is going to be enough. There you see John wandering up the road a bit. So indeed, John wandering up to 5th, even after the pit stop. So Alphanut's strategy hasn't quite worked out for them. So John wandering doing a very good job to keep that Aston in second to last as opposed to last at the moment, although they have understeered a little bit through there. Car looks fairly twitchy. There's that Aston Martin, which is very unusual. Normally we see the mid-engine R8s be the twitchier cars. The car of Alphanut looks quite planted at the moment. And is starting to get into the slipstream range of John wandering actually, so there could be a bit of overtaking going on shortly. We'll have to monitor this. Oh, little bit of a twitch again as the suspension compresses. Interesting, they're giving blue flag warnings even though no one's around them at the moment. That's a bit odd. John wandering flashing his lights to the cameras, and Alphanut having to perhaps go one way then the other. John wandering, I thought he was defending the inside earlier, but he opted not to, and that's allowed Alphanut back through. John Wanderer's going to try cut back as Nils and King are both into the pits trying to get an undercut on Carbon. Both happening at the same time, of course. I can't monitor both things. John Wandering doing a bit of bump drafting the American way. Fantastic backfire there. Well, it looks like Alpha's just about won that skirmish. King of Torque is substantially ahead of Nils after the pit stops. Going to monitor their fuel loads. Yep, so Nils took a little bit more fuel. So that would explain why that gap's increased a little bit. Now, where's Carbon on the track? He's still going through Sector 2. So will it be a case of him just responding to the undercut now? You gotta think that fresh rubber at this particular stage would make quite a lot of difference compared to the... Although the rubber's not that worn on Carbon's car. As per usual, we do see a lot more wear on King's car, due to him generally just pushing the tyres a bit more, perhaps running a bit more downforce as well, and indeed, Carbon does opt to come into the pits to cover the undercut. Perhaps it wasn't a case of fuel then. Unless it might have been just Nils forgetting to click the no fuel. I don't know what it could have been. I don't think there was damage picked up by either of those. We're now seeing Dynamic Carbon getting the tyres. Indeed, there's a little bit of fuel. Little bit of fuel. Where's King? King is here. King is gonna easily get past, surely. Yep, there you see. King round the outside is our new race leader. Gets a massive slingshot off the last corner compared to Carbon, who was restricted to the pit lane. The undercut has paid off, and King of Torque will have their tyres up to temperature as well compared to Carbon. King purple in Sector 1. And important as well that he's broken the slipstream, so no slipstream for Carbon either. Grew into the pits for the second time meanwhile, and exiting, so they're going to quite comfortably still retain 4th place in all of this for the Virtual Racers Club. Indeed, thanks for all the information that we're getting on the YouTube stream from Joe Witt. Of course, he is chief engineer of Nukeshot Motorsport for a reason. He knows things. Even things that I don't. I know. Insane. The gap's starting to extend a little bit again. I think it's going to be key that King of Torque avoids getting those time penalties for running wide in the last sector. And if he's going to retain this, that could be extremely important actually, because I don't think we've seen Carbon pick up as many penalties. Although I say that, it looked like he might have ran a smidge wide on that occasion. No, he seemed to be dead on with that. It just looked a bit odd on the track map is all. So 22 laps down, we're currently on lap 23. It is both Dynamic Esports cars 1 and 2 still, with the King of Torque leading Dynamic Carbon with a little bit of a slide going out of 3. This is exactly what King needs at the moment, although of course with the Team's Championship 1 he might prefer his teammate Carbon to be a bit further down the order than this, but the two currently separated by only 5 points in the championship standings, Carbon being the leader at that particular instance. So any kind of advantage that King can get over Carbon, he will happily take, this being the second to last round of the season. The point system, of course, is 12 points for first, 10 points for second, so the gap would come down to 3 points going into the season finale between these two if they were to finish as is, and of course if both of them avoid getting penalties. Gap seemed to come down a little bit, it's starting to fluctuate. Yep, Joe Witt does acknowledge Carbon did pick up 0.3. The tyres are finally up to temperature on Carbon's car. He'll be hunting down his teammate. Not 100% sure on this, but I believe Q-Tip, who we've had in interviews before on the channel, post-race, might be being the race engineer of King of Torque yet again. So he'll no doubt be having an influence in that, as John Wondering is coming into the pits. No damage on his car. He's got very fresh rubber, actually. What's this for? What is this for? Is this a stop and go penalty? What? He's just come into the pits and he's just sort of stopped. That's odd. As we get a panning shot of the Aston Martin, that's quite nice. But yeah, not sure what's happened to John Wondering in this case. Maybe he's just letting the lead battle go, or maybe he's just waiting till the end of the race. I don't know if there's a rule regarding you have to complete 75% of the race to pick up points. That's a thing in some other series. Well, that's unfortunate to see. The gap really coming down between the two teammates. King of Torque doesn't even have a second of advantage left over Carbon. Carbon flashing his lights to his teammate as well, making their way to turn 3. Very smooth runs from both of them. Again, it certainly seemed Carbon has picked up the pace ever since the tyres have picked up the heat. He's really fluctuating with being in the slipstream range or not. He is going to be in the slipstream range going down the straight, so this is going to bring the top fight back together big time. But it's going to be Carbon challenging. In fact, looking very strong going out of the last corner as well. So, will there be an attempt by Carbon? We've seen at Autopolis that he's a fair bit more reserved when it comes to overtaking than his teammate, and perhaps given the fact that it is his teammate, he will be a fair bit more reserved as well. But also at the end of the day, they are championship rivals, so there's a lot of different factors coming into this. I have ran out of Dandelion and Burdock, so I am sad. I can report that. King doing a good job of holding on at the moment. Nils has dropped back a fair bit, of course, compared to the top two. He's currently in 3rd still, which is very respectful. He's 4.5 seconds off the pace of Carbon, and Carbon is, King is 5 seconds ahead, although Nils currently purple in Sector 2, so he might be having a fair bit of pace here. And as the top two start scrapping a bit, I say that and he's picked up a 0.5 penalty for probably running wide, but as these two start scrapping a fair bit more, it might be a case where they start slowing each other down, and therefore will allow Nils to catch up. Gonna go on board on the car of Dynamic Carbon. Of course, instead of running the white, black and blue as he normally does, he's running the orange this occasion. So, looking a little bit closer to the car ahead. King of Torque with that red. Again, just choosing to stick behind for now. We've got 13.5 laps to go. So these guys not really chancing anything at the moment. Perhaps they know if they battle too much too early, it'll bring Nils back into the picture and interfere even further. So they're really just going to have to work together in order to keep ahead. Although I say that, And now look, Carbon is looking to the outsideline.com for everything DTM. Hasn't worked on that occasion. The stream dies on my phone and I have to reset it. There we go. So yeah, he's certainly looking to get past, but can't do anything at the moment. They also saw that yellow speck in the distance was Nils. And Carbon's picked up a 0.5 second penalty. I'll have to quickly see into this. Was it for running wide? Surely it must have been, or was it just cutting it too much? Yeah, it was more than likely for cutting it too much on that occasion. Game not happy with that. Very fine margins. Well, he's got rid of the penalty either way, and he's still right on the back of King of Talk, so... Perhaps just dealing with the dirty air at the moment, so when he did serve the penalty and drop back a little bit, he was just able to quite easily catch up again. Nils now only 4.2 seconds behind Carbon. So indeed, as I was thinking, he's starting to catch up as these two sort of have to play mind games, and again, it's a bit of chess regarding positioning your car. As you can see, King defending the inside does a fantastic job, but that's going to allow Carbon to perhaps get a cutback going into the last corner. He's gonna just about try it, is he? No. And then King darts back over to the pit wall to defend the inside line. And then will carry it to the outside as he makes his way to the apex. So fantastic racecraft from King of Talk, as we said, with the defensive driving, knowing exactly where to position his car and when to do so. And again, defending the inside. And really just closing down the angle for Carbon on that occasion and not allowing him to have enough momentum to make the cutback. Very clever stuff from him. All of this is really allowing Nils to catch up though, 3.2 seconds behind Carbon. Still no signs from my co-commentator Brandon. Can we have some F's in chat for Brandon? He will be missed. There's the first F by me on my own YouTube account. So, Carbon again will be looking to have a run. King doesn't cover the inside on that occasion. He just about knew he had just enough of a gap so that Carbon wouldn't have tried anything, which is fair play. Interesting, the lights are still registering as red over there on that board. Again, a little bit of a glance from Carbon as he pulls out, but no. Still just about there. I don't know if John... Actually, no, John is out of the pit lane. By the way, John Wondering is going. He's on lap 26. And the leaders are on lap 30, so no doubt he will make the 75% or 3/4 distance. I'm not even sure if that's a rule. I'm just saying that is a rule in quite a lot of other series. But good on him for still racing around at least. Of course, a lot more honour in finishing than not. I do say this to a lot of drivers that are quite prone to quitting when they sort of lose out on any major results. You can also see that Nils is extremely close to these top two. I mean, scrapping away for the last few laps. King again going very defensive, doing a very good job. Carbon thought about going down the inside of the last corner, didn't. Why does the stream keep cutting out? Stupid phone. Carbon's going to look down the inside, is he? No. Again, if it was reversed, Carbon had King behind, I'm almost certain that King would have made that sort of move. Joe Witt shouting out the end of NES Season 4. Yeah, we had a lot of that, if I recall. Hopefully times will change. Nils, just about within 2 seconds of King of Torque. I think it's around 2.1. He's really starting to close up. Still Groot in 4th, still Alphanut 5th, so both VLC cars running close to each other in terms of 4th and 5th. And it's John Wandering in 6th. Now I might be completely wrong here. Groot might have actually made an overtake on Alphanut on track. I'm not 100% sure, as Carbon is looking to the outside line. Has to back out of it. Again, looking for a cutback going into the last corner. That's something he seems to have been trying. Was forcing King to go defensive into second to last, and then see if he can get a cutback through there to get a run down the inside of the last. And now look at this. Carbon's, he's going for it. He's actually going for it. There's just a slight bit of contact. Nothing too major. It seems that has really brought Nils back into this fight. Joe also noting that because these guys are scrapping, that Nils' tyres should be in a fair bit better shape. I'm going to do a quick tyre comparison. There you can see King of Torque already wearing his tyres a lot more than the likes of Carbon. And actually Nils has worn his a little bit more than Carbon. I would say that's probably because he's been able to push a bit more. But there is Nils, still in hot pursuit of these guys. Once he gets in slipstream range, it's going to be a fantastic scrap, which could be building up to the last few laps of the race. We've got 8 to go. 8.5 to be precise. It's still King of Torque who leads. Making their way up through the last sector, up the hill, then down the hill, into the braking zone for second to last. King doesn't have to go defensive on that occasion. Doesn't use all of the curb either. You could see not running as wide. Perhaps that was also to help cover off in case Carbon tried his usual cutback that he was being trying. Nils is indeed within the 7/10, so Nils is certainly in this fight now. 3 BMWs, the top 3, and Carbon seemed to cut that a little bit much for my liking, and indeed does pick up a 0.5 second penalty. I did think that would happen if he cut it that much. He's already cut it that much before and been given a penalty. You'd think he would have learnt that. Easily gets rid of it in the braking zone for turn 2. But now it's looking like Nils doesn't have the greatest of exits. It was looking like Nils might have been closer to Carbon than Carbon was to King for a moment. As the lap's growing down, you got to think that Carbon's going to start getting a bit more desperate. Fantastic shot there from our ground camera. Carbon still chasing down their teammate. Of course, both of these guys responsible for already taking home the team's championship. Looking at it, they're currently on 119 points as Carbon's going down the inside. It's contact, door rubbing between the two, and Carbon's just about managed to get past. Will King be able to do any kind of retaliation? The one time I look at my phone, he's looking to the outside line. Look at this. This is what I was talking about. King is extremely committed to his cornering and overtakes, and indeed he's going to be alongside. And will he do a bit of a Rosberg squeeze leg touch again? And it looks like King's going to try the outside. Oh, this major contact again. Again, more a case of rubbing, and that's King forced off the circuit. Nearly Nils coming into this as well. I'm going to quickly go back to a replay So that was when Carbon just about managed to make the overtake. Also was a bit challenging later on as well. But yep, onion barges between teammates. Fantastic snack, but perhaps not so much in league racing. King of Torque might have some words with Carbon after a little bit of rubbing. We might just see if he can let his driving do all the talking. Oh, that might be a smidge too wide for the game. No, he gets away with it. So right on the limit of what the game will allow. Got a thing, and he's going to be extremely close again. No, Carbon, that has to be a penalty for cutting turn 1. Surely, yep. As predicted, Carbon again, 0.5. He easily manages to serve it in the run to turn 2 though. That braking zone. But now he's also got King for company. The car ghosts, King looking around the outside, and again, contact. We're going to go on board with King of Torque's car. CL Carbon has to take a tighter line. It's allowing King, well, an attempt to get a better run, but you seem to spin the wheels a little bit too much. Bit of a later apex from King on there, just trying to stay in touch. And we also see Nils on the rear wing cam. So Nils still in this fight in case the two teammates get a bit too heated. He is there to pick up the pieces. So it's going to be another run again. You can see on the delta in the top left, the gap coming down because of the slipstream. King going around the outside of turn 1. Again, contact between them. As King forced a little bit off the track. It's going to be side by side yet again. Neither of these guys are going to have a slipstream actually off the other. That's going to put Nils back into the mix again. Carbon having to defend. He's broken late. King tries to get a bit of a cutback. Hasn't worked out. We'll be trying a run down to turn 3. Still no damage, I know. King now looking to the outside. Right on the back bumper. He's super glued to the rear bumper of Carbon. They're making the way up towards the infield section. Again, he tries the late apex. That's... oh, it looked like he might have been lining up to go down the inside of that corner they're going through now, but no. He's just piling on the pressure in these dying stages of the race. We've got just about 4 laps to go when they cross the line. And it is still all to play for. We pretty much know what the top 3 are going to be. The question is, what will the final order of said top 3 actually be? So we go on to lap 37 of 40. We've had 54 minutes of racing. Nils currently has the fastest lap of the race. It's a 1:28.577, which really shows that he is indeed capable of sticking with this group and perhaps taking away top honours. King again. Gonna have to be very late on the brakes. But opts to get a cutback, and that is a fantastic move by King of Torque. Again, the racecraft that went into that was absolutely stunning. Will Carbon actually be able to try anything? He's gonna try a dive. It looks like he's gone too deep. Indeed, he nearly goes into the gravel. King easily manages to get back through. So that was Carbon getting a bit too heated, it would seem. This was the move. King of Torque, textbook cutback on the exit of turn 2. Saw him up into the lead of this race. That might be the deciding factor, we don't know. There's a bit of traffic up ahead on track as well. Not quite sure who that is at this particular stage. It's still extremely close at the front, so I can't really switch to see who it is. I'll see if I can get a quick glance as we go into the next straight. But again, Colin looking extremely close. Who was that? It's Alpha Nut. Okay, so Alpha Nut is perhaps going to be a bit of a challenge for these guys to get back past. These guys making their way up the hill again. I think you might be getting confused there, Joe, because John, remember, spent a bit of time in the pits, so he would be completely out of sequence with lap cars and all that. So, again, as my phone dies and I have to click play again, Carbon will be still trying to pile on the pressure. But you also got to think, as he's going to try and get past, Nils is also going to try and be there. Nils is just out of slipstream range. Again, there to pick up the pieces if something happens. They also saw the orange speck of the Texaco machine of Alpha Nut. And Carbon's actually going to look to the outside. He's just about got a good run through the infield section. King is going to do a bit of a Rosberg squeeze to the outside. And just about manages to hold on to that. Will it be a penalty for King for running a bit wide? I'd say that was fair. Was the running wider? Indeed, the game does agree. So the penalty system doing as it should. Two wheels on the curb. Admittedly the inside wheels, but still perfectly legal in my view of track limits at least. Nils is back up into the slipstream of these guys. We're on the second to last lap here. Carbon's going to be getting very desperate, but not as desperate as he would be on the last lap. Oh, really closing up, going into the apex of the corner. The top three separated 4/10 each from each other. Really got to think, these guys could literally finish in any order at this stage. It just takes one moment. There they go again. Thank you, ground camera, for that amazing effect. Big up Jack Wilkinson for that one. I would have spent a fair bit more time with other cars in this race, but it's just been a fantastic scrap for the lead. From start to finish, it has to be said, and it's all built up to a fantastic conclusion, and making the way to the last two corners for the second to last time. Nils, you can see he's a lot more committed on the curb on that occasion. Did he pick up a penalty? No, he didn't. Again, fair play. We're on to the last lap here at Red Bull Ring. The gap, 4/10 of a second, just about 5/10 of a second, as King seems to get a superior exit. The traffic up ahead is starting to get a bit closer as well. That's Alpha Nut up ahead. Will Carbon be able to do anything going into turn 2? He knows that if he does anything too stupid, he might lose a position to Nils as well. So he really can't be overly aggressive with the moves, because he might end up trying to make a move for a position and end up losing one. The gap 3/10 as they make their way down to turn 3. Carbon, oh, was that a slight nudge? I couldn't quite tell. It looked extremely close, but Carbon's down the inside. King, it will go extremely defensive. There's yellow flags out, so that means that Carbon won't be allowed to overtake. Not sure who that was. That might just be like the likes of John Wandering pulling off or something. Because Alpha Nut is still there. It's going to be extremely close again. Just 2 corners to go from home. King of Torque rounds the second to last fine. It's going to be close. King runs a bit wide. King just about keeps on track. Will he pick up a penalty from that? They come across the line. It's going to be King of Torque who takes the race win. Here at Red Bull Ring, it's going to be teammate Dynamic Carbon who comes home in second. And it's going to be BMW of Nils coming up in third. 1, 2, 3 for the BMW squad. Fantastic racing, and what a climax it was right at the end. It was actually a yellow flag that might have decided all of that in the end, although it looked like Carbon wouldn't have managed to have got past regardless through that. Groot about to come across the line. Good result from Groot. We've always said that he's had very rotten luck throughout the series, although he would probably be under investigation for the incident with TSR Stig right on lap 1. But besides that, solid result for him. Alphanut still in Sector 2, so in that infield section, now into Sector 3. And it was indeed John Wondering who went off track, just trying to stay out of the way of the lead Vandal, which you can't really blame him for. He's known for being very sporting in terms of getting out of the way. Oh, good to see. Now, will Alphanut actually make it across the line? He's got 5 seconds to do so. It looks like they just about will indeed. Alphanut comes home across the line, 5th place in the end. So, the manufacturers separated quite a fair bit there on the results, but it was King of Torque misqualifying, started at the back of the grid and took the race win. That was a fantastic display. I'm going to save the replay before Carbon complains or shuts the lobby down or something along those lines. Oh, that was an absolute phenomenal display in the ladder stages. Fantastic racing between all 3 BMWs. Here are your final results then. King of Torque taking the race win by just under 5/10 of a second. Dynamic Carbon in second, so Dynamic Esports once again, very strong result for both of them despite already wrapping up the championship, the team's championship rather. So that's a 1-2 for them. The Nuke Shop Motorsport BMW of Nilsman coming home in third, so very solid result for them. I am very happy with that performance, Nils, if you're listening on stream. Groot finally got a little bit of a break, it has to be said, picking up points for 4th, although of course with the retirement of TSR Stig, that would mean that everyone would score points anyway. Again, it's a bit of a shame that we didn't see as full of a grid on this occasion. Starting to get a bit of Super Formula syndrome in that sense, but nevertheless, Groot end up finishing ahead of their teammate Alphanut by quite a comfortable margin, about 45 seconds I want to say that is approximately. Quick maths. So of course, fantastic result for both of the Virtual Racers Club cars, and John Wondering, the fan favourite, picking up position, the point for last place for 6th. But good job on them for sticking with the racing after they. It did look like they were retiring the car midway through that one, but they stuck with it. So fair play to them. And indeed, I'll see if I can get these guys in for an interview. Joe Witt noting in the chat that that's actually moved Nils up to 3rd in the championship standings, apparently. So that's interesting. I cannot find King of Torque on this list. Perhaps he's registered himself as offline. I'll have to scroll a fair bit to find him. There's King. I'll see if I can get Q-Tip as engineering as well if he's online.
Good evening.
Yes, hello King. Just quickly before we start the interview, is Q-Tip actually online?
No, he's not my race engineer for today. He wasn't on.
Oh, right, okay, and here's me going on about how, you know, he might have been talking to you about strategy, keeping you calm and all that.
That was all me that time.
Well then, 100% credit to you on that race winner. How you feeling after that?
Amazing. Yeah, missed quali obviously due to work, but yeah, I was speaking to Carbon throughout the week, and I was saying, you know, it'd be a miracle if I won the race and he was P2, but it happened, and now the gap is 3 points.
Yep. Fantastic battle, it has to be said as well. Especially as it closed up in the latter stages between your teammate and also Nils getting into the mix as well. Your thoughts on that battle in particular?
Yeah, it was a brilliant battle. Lots of respect between the drivers, which is always, of course, good to see. And after the pit stop, I came ahead of Carbon, and I was actually, I don't know if I can say this, but I was trying to back Carbon up a little bit into Nils. After he started catching me, I was trying to back him up a bit. But yeah, Nils caught us, but couldn't really do anything. So yeah, Carbon had a few good attempts. He actually managed to get in front of me, but yeah, phenomenal racing between all three of us. Well, everyone on the grid, to be honest. It was a fantastic race.
Yeah, of course you starting at the back of the grid as well. Pretty much got up into first on the first occasion. I want to say it was the beginning of lap 2. It was extremely early on anyway, so a fantastic start.
Lap 2, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, just avoided all the trouble, and I believe I was P3 at turn 1.
Yep.
I think there was a bump between Groot and Stig, I believe.
Yeah.
And, a couple of other cars kind of had to dodge that. Meanwhile, I held back off the start, hoping for a bit of an incident, and it happened.
Yeah.
So yeah, managed to skate right down the inside of all of them.
It certainly worked out for you on that occasion. Of course, as you are probably very well aware of, going into the last round of the season at Nürburgring, it's a 3-point gap between you and Dynamic Carbon for the championship.
Yeah. Yeah, Carbon, he's had a fantastic season, and I struggled a bit for the first, I want to say 5 rounds, but recently I've been getting my act together a little bit. Should have had 3 wins, but yeah, I believe this is 2 in a row, isn't it? 2 wins in a row.
I can't quite recall. Did you win Monza?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. 2 wins in a row.
Yeah. 2 wins in a row. If I didn't bottle Dragon Trail, it would have been 3 wins in a row. But yeah, that was obviously my mistake back then. But yeah, in the later stages of this season, I've really got my act together, and yeah, closing in on that title.
Yeah, it could be a fantastic comeback story if you were to end up taking the title win, of course. A bit of a Mercedes F1 situation developing with Dynamic Esports being, is mainly you two, in particular, you and Carbon, fighting for the championship. So of course it's a very interesting dynamic that you have, being teammates but also championship rivals.
Yeah, well, of course, we've already won the Constructors, so I think, like, there was a bit of contact in that race, mainly from Carbon's side. I don't want to point fingers, but...
That's a very large finger that's been pointed.
Yeah.
It was all Carbon's fault.
Most of it was clean, which was really good to see, and it was only small bumps. There wasn't massive impacts or anything like that. But yeah, obviously one Constructors, so I think we can afford to be a little bit less focused towards that now. So I think we're mainly fighting it out between ourselves, but yeah, hopefully I come out on top.
Right, of course. So it's going to be an absolutely thrilling end to a fantastic season coming up next week. You enjoy your victory that you've just had now, and of course you and Q-Tip get together, get prepped for the finale in Nürburgring in a week's time. Well done.
Yeah, thank you very much. Take care.
So, after that, quite frankly, amazing race, one of the best we've had throughout the season in terms of a scrap, especially at the sharp end. There's, I'm running out of words. It was just fantastic to commentate on. Of course, really unfortunate regarding my co-commentator Brandon having a bit of a technical issue of some kind of internet failure. So that probably have ended the Twitch side of the stream over a bit short, which is unfortunate as we're starting to branch out in that particular area. But of course, the season finale at Nürburgring on the GP circuit, as it's labelled on the thread, that will be on the 15th of June 2019. So definitely stay tuned for that. Of course, we also have the Group C Le Mans event. Was it like the DRL Classic Le Mans or something along those lines that it's called? So definitely stay tuned for that. The special events that are coming up are going to be some quite interesting ones, and it's going to be very interesting given that there's not like a long sort of championship process with it. It's sort of an exhibition in a way. So definitely stay tuned for all of that. There's plenty of stuff coming up in Dynamic Racing Leagues. There's also DRL GT and DRL ITCC coming up, which will be the two next main championships we have after this season of DTM's finished. So plenty to look forward to on that front. So from myself, from more than likely Brandon if he was here, from all of us here on Dynamic Racing Leagues, this has been Nuke Shop Zokio, I nearly forgot my name, signing out, still not part of the Radio Show Limited Network. Thanks for watching.